Hi there, and welcome to the next video in the how-to series on GameMaker. And at the moment we are just walking through how to get an object moving. And we're starting with the player, but this translates to any object that you will ever create in your game. The principles are exactly the same, and you'll use exactly or very similar code to get any object moving. So it's very important that you understand the principles of how we do this. Now, to get a player moving, you typically move a player with your keyboard. You'll press the left, right, up or down key, or often the WSAD keys. In our example, we are using the left and right keys. And if you have a look at the current code, you will see two lines of code here, which just checks for keyboard movement. Now, at the end of this video, you will have a player on screen that does this. Okay, so your player moves left and right. Now, we're not quite there yet. All we've got is a single line of code. I'm going to tell you what it does in a minute, but you should probably be able to work it out yourself. And another line of code that really doesn't do anything other than output a message to the output window. So it says show debug message, or just show message, you can read that as. And that sends whatever's in between the brackets here, the value of move horizontal, so whatever's stored in that storage bucket at the time, that variable, will be output to the output window. Now, let us demonstrate right now and then walk through this line of code to work out why it is doing what it is doing. So let me run it. Okay, now as you can see, there are a bunch of zeros appearing, and these are being written very, very, very quickly to the screen. The game is running at 60 frames a second. The step event runs at the same speed. So this step event is running 60 times a second. Hence, you get 60 messages a second and 60 zeros a second being output. Now, if I press the right key, which is going to be ultimately the way I move my player right, it goes to ones. If I take my finger off the right key, it goes back to zeros. If I press the left key, it goes to -1. If I take my finger off the left key, it goes to 0. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to kill that running instance, and we're going to walk through how that actually works before moving on to write some code that actually moves this player. And then we're finally getting somewhere instead of just having this block on the screen. So, move horizontal is simply the storage bucket, the way we're going to store our keyboard movement for the duration of this step event. The two important bits are the two keyboard checks. So one keyboard check is checking for the right key being pressed, and one keyboard check is checking for the left key being pressed. And if you notice here, we're subtracting whatever the keyboard check for the left key returns from whatever the keyboard check for the right key returns. So it ends up being literally a subtraction. So, you know, it could be something like 1 minus 1. Or if you've done algebra, you might not have done algebra if you're in year 7 or year 8. I'm not sure what year you do it, but if you're at x minus y, it's basically, that's all we're doing. It's something minus something. Okay? Now, as you know from last time, keyboard check will return a 1 or a 0. And as we've just seen, we've just seen ones and zeros. So keyboard check for VK right will return 1 when I'm pressing 1. So if I press the right key down, this will return 1. Now what will keyboard check left return? Well, it will return a 0 because I'm not pressing the left key. So we will have 1 minus 0, which is 1. So move horizontal would be 1 if I'm pressing the right key down. If, however, I'm pressing the left key down, keyboard check VK right will be 0 and keyboard check VK left will be 1. So we'll have 0 minus 1 equals minus 1. So move horizontal will be minus 1, as we just saw in the demonstration. Now, we're going to use that right now to work out how we should move this player, because we now have the valuable, vital information, 1, 0 or minus 1, and we know what to do. So I'm going to write in this video, the rest of this video, I'm just going to write in comments to tell you, to show you what the code should be doing. I'm not actually going to write the code, and you are going to see if you can write the code. And then after that, we will provide a solution, perhaps in the next video. Or if you're doing STEM with us, we'll do that in the lesson. So, comments then. Remember, comments start with a double slash. They appear in green in GameMaker and they are not code, they're just comments. So they are to explain what's going on. And I'm going to use them to show you what the code should be. What we need to say is basically something like this. If move horizontal is equal to 1, then move the block right. Otherwise, if move horizontal is minus 1, then move the block left. And that's going to be the basic code. So I'm going to put in if move horizontal equals 1, then let's put it underneath here, then move block right. And we put else if, so that means if move horizontal doesn't equal 1, then it obviously isn't going to move block right. It goes on to the next statement and says otherwise if or else if the next thing's true, then do this, and it goes through to see which one's true. If one of them's true, it will execute it and it will not check the other ones. So we're going to say else if move horizontal equals minus 1, then move block left. And that's basically all we need to do, really. But that's too high level, really, for you to be able to write the code. But that's basically what we're going to do. In order to move the block right or left, we actually need to add something. We need to add something to the x coordinate, or we need to subtract something from the x coordinate. And that thing we're going to use is the x speed of the object. So we need to create x speed, and look, we've already created it here, and we've created y speed, but we're not going to use y speed because we only want to move left and right, not up and down in this particular instance. So x speed is 0 when we create it, and we can use x speed from this point on, because x speed, unlike a local variable, will exist for as long as the object exists in the game. So in order to move block right, we are going to add a number to x speed. Add 3 to x speed. Now, I'm just picking the number 3. It means we're going to add 3 pixels. We're going to move the player 3 pixels to the right. So we could have had any number there. So 5, 10, 15. The higher the number, obviously the faster it's going to look like it goes, because remember, in 60 frames, if you do this 60 times, it's going to move at 180 pixels. If you had 10 instead in 60 frames, that's going to move 60 times 10 equals 600 pixels. So it's going to look a lot faster. So I'm going to say 3 because I don't want it to be that fast. The opposite is going to be subtract, because moving left, we have to subtract 3 from x speed. And finally, we need to set x. We don't set x to x speed. We add x speed to x, and x is the all valuable, all important x coordinate of the object. So if you set anything to the x coordinate, the net effect will be that GameMaker will move it to that coordinate. So this is really going to say move. This is really saying move the object 3 pixels to the right if the right key was pressed. If the left key was pressed, then it would be move the object 3 pixels to the left. Okay, so that is basically how we write a pseudocode to derive the code that we need to write. And there's one more thing we need to do, because if you think about this, if you add 3 to x speed here, so x speed is now 3, right? Because when it was created it was 0. In this frame now, first frame, it's 3. When this code in the step event finishes, x speed is still 3. Okay? It's still 3 because it's not like a local variable. It's not destroyed. It's still there. It still persists. So x speed still exists and it's 3. Now when you come in for the second frame, if you add another 3 to x speed is going to be 6. We don't want that to happen, because if we keep doing that, by the 60th frame x speed will be thousands or something. It'll be, I don't know, it'll be a very high number. So in every frame we need to reset x speed and y speed, but let's just do x speed. Reset x speed to 0, and that will stop x speed increasing very, very quickly, and x speed will always be 0 or 3 or minus 3. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, and those of you who want to have a go at this, try and write the code right now. Those of you who feel they need to see the code, the next video is going to replace this with the code. Okay, we'll see you in that video.